without further ado, the main body of what we're going to do today is talk about the RCS chatbot directory, which I'm pleased to say most of the UK carriers will be launching. EEBT intend to launch it before the end of the year, and I think it's the same with Telefonica, who'll be joining me for a chat in a second. And essentially, this is going to be a new, exciting way to push content and discovery of content to our customers. And it's a great way to utilize that 17 million customers that we have on access to on RBM within the UK market. And yeah, so I'd like to invite Murray from Telefonica, Direqt from Cisco, and Nick onto the stage, and we can talk about the chatbot directory. I feel like I'm at a strange angle. Maybe I should move. When you're not on this stage, you don't realize how bright the lights are. They're insanely bright. You can't even see the audience, but anyway. So just to sort of give you a summary of what we're trying to do here is basically just talk about what this will bring for the UK market. Vodafone have already launched this service, and we've discussed this at length in our collaborative group that meets about every month in the UK. So when I heard Murray was going to be attending as well, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to discuss our collective interest in the service and interest in getting the service launched. Between Telefonica and EE, we make up about over 60% of the UK market. Vodafone's about another 25, I think. So really, we've got about 85% coverage of this chatbot directory coming soon, and we're lucky today to have the co-founder of Direqt with us, Nick Martin. So I think I'll just put the first question to you, Nick. What made you co-found Direqt, and what is your vision for the chatbot directory in the UK market, and how do you think we will benefit as carriers and within the CPaaS community as well from launching this service?
Yeah, so I'll try to take those in order, but remind me.
I mean, it's quite a big question.
Yeah. So on the founding of Direqt, we thought that the advent of RCS created some obvious opportunities to deliver new experiences inside arguably the most important app on the phone today, the default messaging app. And for us, that is largely focused on content, and content in all forms. And so yesterday we talked about news publishers, entertainment publishers, but content is quite wide. There's a lot of ways people engage with it. And so we spend all of our time thinking about how do you get the best content into the best app and deliver an experience to the consumer that's sticky, that's recurring, that's highly engaging. Because we believe that if you create an audience in the channel, that's actually what's going to drive most of the brand adoption, right? Consumer adoption is the leading indicator of the brand adoption. And so in addition to traditional news publishers, we're working on things like games and how to bring gaming into a chat environment, video, another format that we think is important. And my partner and co-founder, John Duffy, who many of you guys know, is quite the visionary and has probably been the poster boy for RCS for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he deserves a lot of credit for having the light bulb go off. I think he was on the front lines of it and saw, hey, there's a lot here that can be done that maybe the legacy messaging space wasn't thinking about. And so we're working really hard to bring that to life, and really grateful to have you guys as partners to do that. So that's sort of on the Direqt front. I think the second question was, why are we working on directories? And for us, directory might just be sort of like a technical term to describe what it is in the standard, things like that. We think of it as discovery, right? And if you have a really compelling in-app discovery experience, it does a lot of things. It, one, really solves any argument around ubiquity because you can reach the audience there. You have a way to get in front of them. We think, two, it unlocks innovative use cases. Like back to gaming, if you think about that experience, it's not something that makes a ton of sense in an A2P environment, right? If you're going to go to a different website for games, you're probably going to play them there. And so we think it's a starting point for a lot of innovation, a lot of new use cases. And then finally, it unlocks brand adoption, I think, in a new way. And so if you're a business today and you're doing A2P messaging, there's a ton of great use cases. There's a lot of great companies that power that. It's not our focus. We think it's valuable for the brands, valuable for the operators. But when your user journey starts with the consumer finding your business, I think it forces a level of creative execution that's quite different. An example here might be social. And so if you think about how brands behave across social platforms, they don't just post promotions and coupons every single day on Instagram, right? Because it won't work. It won't get engagement. And so because the consumer is finding their content, I think it forces a much more holistic view of how do you create an engaging experience, how do you do that in a way that's contextual to the environment you're in. And so we're trying to bring that to life with the operators, and we think it's going really well so far. So that's two. I don't know if there was a third or if you want me to let somebody else talk already.
I know, I think it'd be good to hear I think we've got enough time for you to delve into the third, and that's, even hearing that from you now has sort of brought it to life for me, and I'm sort of, my mind's ticking away thinking about the use cases that we could bring. And I think if you want to sort of expand on the third one, but I think we have had that issue in the UK market with really bringing P2A to life, and this is obviously going to bridge that gap. So if you want to expand on that, and then we can go to David and Murray in a second.
Yeah. So the question is how do we expand it across the carriers?
Well, yeah.
So I think for us, when we think about any market, like single market density is really important. And I think one of the things that you guys have done so well, and I hope other operators from other markets will take the lead from, if they haven't already, is working together, in these groups that you've organized, so that the operators have a unified strategy and unified approach. We think that's much better for the end consumer. It's obviously better for brands. And at the end of the day, that's what's really in the operator's best interest, because having the same solution deployed in a market makes it so much easier for the DCBs of the world to drive investment from brands, which ultimately creates that commercial opportunity that we're focused on delivering to the operator. And so, again, I think at the end of the day, to the extent possible where as an operator, you can get in a room and align on how you want to take RCS to market together. And that's how we really think about it. Like RCS is a product, and if you're a product manager for RCS, you need to have a really well thought out go-to-market strategy. I don't think just sitting back and launching your map, getting live, and waiting for traffic to come is a winning strategy. And you guys have really led the way, I think, in the UK on how do you build something that's cohesive and that delivers value to the end consumer first, make sure they love it, and then from there, everything else kind of follows suit.
Yeah. And I think the way I sort of see it, and I'm not sure if you agree, Murray, is that we will launch campaigns with brands through our CPaaS providers, and then hopefully we can say, do you want to go into this chatbot directory or discovery function as well? And it's just another string to the bow of our offerings on RBM.
Very much so. It's a marvelous value exchange, as Nick articulated yesterday and just now. But I'm going to even step back from that a little. I don't like to talk about RCS. People made the point yesterday that it was an industry acronym, and it sits in the background as a piece of tech that just sort of fundamentally enables something. But over the years, whilst I've worked in messaging, I've been quite surprised at how organic messaging has grown and come into people's lives without us necessarily contriving to put it there. I've done market research over the years and sort of asked the question, how important is messaging to your lives? And people have generally said, oh, I don't think it is. But then when you sort of inquire as to what they receive from the banks and the couriers and the gyms, and it rapidly becomes apparent that it's the most important engagement mechanism in their lives. It's the thing that sort of triggered a lot of their activity, and because it commands such a response, it's the thing that grabs their attention, and because it's network embedded functionality, it's a very precious asset, and it's done us all very well over the years. So the way I like to think of this is that I just want messaging to be front of mind for everybody. There's a diversity of channels now, and it's drawing people away from that envelope on the phone, which is an app, clearly, but it's more than that. It's something that comes through the network. It's trusted. It's been built, as a substantial piece of capability. I know it's only a small number of characters, but it's allowed us to build this industry and a lot of the businesses that you guys represent. So I just don't want to lose that essence. I want to sort of make sure that messaging has equal billing with everything else. The directory is a marvelous way of engendering a P2A engagement and delivering a value exchange to the brands that will ultimately appear on that. And hopefully, just it re-engages people. It makes people think that messaging is definitely somewhere they want to be, by virtue of that, it has my support, and I think the fact that we are collaborating in the way necessary to sort of power the ecosystem is a great initiative, and one we're certainly fully supportive of at VMO too.
Thank you, Murray. And I think most people who are experienced with carriers know that this sort of collaboration is definitely an exception. So it's really, really great that we've been able to do it in the UK for RBM. I think that it's sort of become clear as we've been talking what the carrier rationale is behind the chatbot directory or discovery function. But how will the CPaaS players, such as yourself and Cisco, benefit from this, David?
Well, I suppose when we go and talk to clients now, we talk about A2P. We talk about what messages are you sending today, what needs, what conversations do you need to start? And as you say, it can be seen as quite intrusive. You know, if you've not contacted someone for a couple of years and suddenly a message appears in their inbox, then, you know, are you going to get as good a reaction? What the directory does is it gives an unobtrusive way of a customer discovering your brand. And discovering it amongst some superb content that they're getting from their network, essentially for no cost. But that value exchange, they're engaging with it, they're starting to learn from it. And I will say that discovery, so being able to see, you know, the Condé Nast type content, the Vogue, the GQ, all that sort of thing, and then slap bang in the middle of it should be your mobile company's logo. And you click on that and you can talk to, oh, actually, yeah, they've got a sale on, or, oh, this new phone's coming out. Or whether it's, you know, Hollywood.com appears, and then you can go lead through and buy your tickets. It fills that P2A gap. I think it does one of the things that I certainly have talked about for a while, and it gives RCS a personality.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I would say Shirley's up there somewhere, probably smiling at that.
Or messaging a personality.
But it gives the default inbox on your phone a personality.
Yeah.
And you're right, that is the way to talk about it. RCS is never going to be a term that I'm going to, you know, walk into a family meeting and everyone's going to know what I do for a living. This is not going to fix that.
Really? You haven't bored your family enough with it yet? Because I have.
I have, and all of them switched to iPhone. No. But this, being able to walk in and say, oh, have you seen that article? Or did you see this?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're much more driven by content and story and engagement, and just simply by brands placing the right content next to that, you get the engagement, you get the opt-in, you get the P2A discovery and engagement, and then that enables A2P to only increase.
100%. Yeah. We do think it's a catalyst for the A2P business, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it works both ways. It will give us that ability to walk into a brand and say, yep, this is the best way to reach people on Android.
Yeah, when I first discussed this, when I first joined BT when I first discussed it with Nick, I just thought there are some PR issues with the native inbox as it is. People say, oh, we've moved to other channels for P2A. They forget how many comms that they get from businesses within the inbox. And I think this will excite customers more when they actually go into their inbox and find out that there's a lot more content in there, and we'll just increase the amount of eyeballs we get on both A2P communications and this discovery function as a result of this. I guess maybe it's probably a good time to ask the question. Maybe we've got a bit of time left over, Nick. So what kind of, if you were like a typical customer, maybe in a year's time, this is a bit of a left field question, but I'm sure you can handle
I'm excited for
it. Discovering the chatbot directory, once we're rolled out in the UK market, how would you envisage their journey being, and how do you think that they will benefit from it as consumers?
The consumer journey to our galleries product?
Yeah.
So I think at the highest level, the leading KPI is time spent in the messaging app. And so if we fast forward a year from now, this is live across the UK, there's a unified experience, it's relevant to the end consumer, they're finding content that they want, they're getting brands recommended to them in a way that's contextual and relevant and not intrusive. And what we would be seeing from that is consumers are visiting it more frequently, they're spending more time in it. Their overall conversational diet is increasing. The amount of conversations they have with brands, how that relates to where they interact with brands in general versus app, web, social, we're going to start leveling that playing field. And so I think in about 12 months time, post your guys' launches where we have that sort of single market density in the UK, we'll be back here in this room with a case study that I think is really going to set the stage for hopefully how on a global basis operators approach this side of the RCS strategy. And I also think we'll be able to draw a line from the adoption of P2A, not just from what Direqt does in the market, bringing content into the channel, but from how the Ciscos of the world can bring in their businesses, and then actually tying that back to how is that driving both A2P traffic and revenue, but also new use cases, right? I think Jan talked yesterday about innovation and doing things in this channel that haven't been done in legacy messaging. This has got to be by far the most natural starting point for a Cisco to get somebody on board for that type of innovation. And then I think what will happen is that ladders back up into the broader overall messaging and A2P strategy. Yeah. And so, long-winded answer. The summary there is it'll be awesome.
So I think there has been a couple, and you even said yourself that sometimes I feel that I've been talking about this service, even just from an A2P functionality, and I've been having eureka moments with brands in rooms, but there may be an issue within some of the sales functions within some of our CPaaS that they're not quite understanding this product. How do you think this chat?
Not you, DC.
No,
you.
So bloody hell.
No, obviously not you. Not you. I mean, they've been very used to selling SMS, and it's the processes are there. Do you think something like this will make it a more exciting sales prospect for your colleagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the difference between sending or selling an outbound notification to selling a conversation is actually quite a journey that you need to take your teams on. They need to really understand the value. The kind of figures that we've been talking about, and all of the use cases have brought to bear, they need to understand that and know that it's not just about, okay, what's the price of one message? It's what's the value of a conversation. Yeah. And the directory, and I think as it grows, it will gather attention. And it will help people to really understand that there is value being driven by your mobile network that isn't necessarily a giveaway or a discount. Yeah. It is hopefully enriching certainly your content, but enriching your ability to be able to reach a business when you want. We've heard a lot of people say you need to be where your customers are, and you need to be there when they need you, or even before they need you. And this is another step on that process to making the mobile phone the ubiquitous point for people to go, okay, I want to talk to this business.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Murray, we heard yesterday, I think it was James O'Hare from Link said that he felt that sometimes for digital marketing strategy, there was a bit of it was considered like a lowbrow product. But I think with when sort of marketing agencies hear messaging, they just automatically think of SMS, which isn't the most exciting proposition. How do you think this will help Telefonica customers and your partners overcome that issue?
Yeah, I mean, it was a valid point made yesterday, but and we've forayed into the marketing or the realm of marketing when we had the O2 Media product, which then became Weave, and it had a limited shelf life because it was a sort of an intrusive medium from a marketer's perspective, but I just think that the additional kind of attraction of directory and the P2A discovery of this is just going to change that massively. We're going to leave alone, going to leave behind the old perception of what messaging is about, which is just a sort of an operational updatey thing. It just tells you when your parcel's coming, or that something's closed or whatever. So yeah, the realms of what messaging has done in the past compared to what it's going to be doing for people in the future it's just so dramatically different. And I do believe it's incumbent on us as well, as David's made the point, that the value sale is a different challenge for a CPaaS business. It's a different challenge for us as well. We need to sort of question ourselves and align, behind you guys and make sure that we've got the right kind of pack and we're allowing all the sort of end-to-end user flows to be very evident, so that you can sort of wow customers with what you design and build. So, yeah, I think it's up to us all to sort of change the game a little. It's in our hands and in our destiny. So, yeah, we all need to sort of just up our game a little. But I certainly believe that's a consequence. Well, it will be a consequence of us doing that.
Yeah, and I think this will move along with everything that RCS can provide, messaging from communication to conversation for the whole ecosystem. And on that note, I just wondered if there's any closing remarks from any of you, or should we open the floor to questions?
Open up the questions, maybe. DCB, do you have anything?
Well, no, I was just going to say, which marketing company wouldn't want an extra 17 million eyeballs?
Well,
in front of
when you
the
think
new
of
way.
what they would even spend on like an influencer marketing campaign, like when I was at a marketing event last week, if an influencer has 17 million followers, like, they would never hesitate on throwing massive amounts of money at it, and yet this is a much more cost-effective way to get that many eyeballs and better analytics, etc., on any campaign. So
as soon as they click on it, it's not, here's your advert, please visit our website.
Yeah.
It's, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
How can I help?
I think maybe just to tie a bow on that, there was a lot of analogies drawn yesterday to television commercials, for example, which is a great analogy. But in order for that to be relevant or to be applicable, there has to be an audience that you can actually get in front of. Like the difference in a non-P2A environment between an RCS reach number and a television show is you can go to the television show and put your brand in front of the customer. If there's no audience to put your brand in front of, it's a completely different use case. The user journey is different. A2P is an owned audience. Discovery is about a new audience, getting in front of consumers that you're not reaching today. And I think by giving the consumer what they want, giving them an incredible experience that's content-led, that's relevant to them, that's going to captivate the audience, and the audience is what will bring the brands in. And so we feel really strongly this is a good idea. I'm curious if there's any questions in the crowd we can answer.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? As I said, I see a question there from Dave from Infobip. I went really off piece there, so he's all handled it quite well.
Yeah, none of that was prepped, was it?
That's fine, Fiona.
Yeah, so it's Dave from Infobip. So it's really exciting, really interesting. But just as a question, obviously, as we can see on screen now, the first brands we can expect to come into this kind of environment will be content providers looking to monetize and share content. But given the use cases for RCS, RBM, how do we avoid getting into a scenario where we just replicate the Twitter newsfeed in the messaging inbox, given service messaging, customer service messaging and the like? How do we make sure we allow consumers to curate and have control over what they can see in their inbox?
Yeah, so really good question. The way we think about it as a provider of the platform here is that, one, we're agnostic to who's bringing chatbots or chat-based experiences. And so our approach to the market is to try to be a catalyst in partnership with the operator for the CPaaS providers, the aggregators. And so we encourage anyone in this room that is trying to increase their RCS portfolio to work with us and our operators to bring their brand into the channel. And so through the operator, the way we engage with them, if you guys can bring chatbots into the space, we can deliver them into this experience really, really easily. And then to the second point around how do you make sure it's not Twitter, right? Because we don't want it to be a $5 billion business with hundreds of millions of users. And so if we want to avoid that, which again is not the worst outcome, I think what's important is that the experiences are contextual to the medium. And so Twitter is its own thing, right? It is content, but everything on the mobile device is content. And so the way we think about it is, how do you deliver a content experience that is purpose-built for messaging, right? How do you engage with a story inside of a conversational format? How do you play a game inside of a conversational format? No different than how do I book an airline ticket or a hotel or any other use case? It has to make sense inside of the interface of a conversation. And so we spend a lot of our time thinking about that. I think there's a lot of great companies, Cisco included, that do the same on the brand front. Yeah. What we can't do is just copy paste what's on these other platforms and hope that that's magically going to work. I think there has to be thoughtful design around how do you take at the high level what the consumer cares about and then create an experience that's engaging to them in a way that actually makes sense for messaging. Yeah. And so I think that's on all of us in all different verticals and industries to continue to fight that fight and create experiences that really delight the end consumer. And if we do a good job of that, I think everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. I actually think we're almost out of time, but is there any other last questions? Okay, we've got 15 seconds to spare, so that was pretty good. Nice. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.